one question and one question follow-up per outlet. At the conclusion of the press briefing, our public affairs staff will also be available to assist with any follow-on inquiries or further needs. For those unable to join us today, we will publish a press release with imagery and information about the Hamilton's interdiction operations later today. I request that any questions you may have are focused on the Coast Guard's drug interdiction operations and the Cutter Hamilton. I know that we have several senior leaders here today, and you may have other questions for them, and we're happy to refer those to the appropriate authority to be answered another time. But we've invited you here today for the Hamilton's historic offload. Thank you, and it is now my pleasure to introduce the Commander of Coast Guard District Southeast, Rear Admiral Adam Shammy.
All right, thanks, Nikki. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. What a beautiful day in South Florida. Today we welcome the crew of Coast Guard Cutter Hamilton. This is the crew's final stop before returning to their home port in Charleston later this week. Today, we are witness to the largest drug offload in Coast Guard history, a total of 76,140 pounds of illegal narcotics. The crew of Hamilton, who have lived in this ship for over the last 2 months, they personally interdicted over 47,000 pounds of cocaine. These men and women put themselves in harm's way time and again to stop the bad guys, apprehend the smugglers, and seize the drugs. This is grueling and dangerous work, and I am extremely proud of them. The crew of Hamilton was joined by several other Coast Guard and Department of Defense units during their deployment. These other units included Coast Guard Cutter Vigilant and Coast Guard Cutter Diligence, the Coast Guard Helicopter Interdiction Tactical Squadron, our Coast Guard Tactical Law Enforcement teams from Miami and San Diego, and a whole host of Coast Guard members throughout the Southwest, West, and Southeast districts. Also within the Department of Homeland Security, Customs and Border Protection, air and marine operations played a critical role in several of these interdictions. Within the Department of Defense, these interdictions would not have happened without the tireless work by the Joint Interagency Task Force South in Key West, Florida. You will hear more about their mission in just a minute. Also within the Department of Defense, the crews of USS Cole and USS Minneapolis-St. Paul performed multiple interdictions, seizing the drugs you see in front of you and detaining the suspected smugglers. We were also joined by the Royal Netherlands Navy and the crew of HNLMS Friesland. The Dutch remain a steadfast partner to the United States as they battle the cartels right alongside us. In total, these crews interdicted a staggering $473 million in illegal narcotics before they could reach our shores. That's 61,740 pounds of cocaine and 14,400 pounds of bulk marijuana, all stopped at sea. This success was a team effort, made possible by our unwavering dedication and seamless coordination with our incredible partners at the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Defense, and Department of Justice. This truly illustrates the power of interagency cooperation in protecting our nation. 80% of all narcotics seized are confiscated at sea, underscoring the impact of Coast Guard maritime interdiction efforts. The U.S. Coast Guard brings unique authorities and unmatched capabilities as the world's leader in maritime counter-drug operations. Every single day, thousands of brave men and women of the Coast Guard stand watch, controlling, securing, and defending our border and maritime approaches. We are proud to serve as a part of the Department of Homeland Security and at all times, one of our military branches. Whether on the water or in the air, the U.S. Coast Guard works hand in hand with our partners. We're on the front lines in the fight against foreign terrorist organizations and other dangerous criminals who seek to flood our community with narcotics, deadly fentanyl, and other illicit substances. To truly understand the significance of this offload, consider this. the 61,740 pounds of cocaine represent 23 million potentially lethal doses. That's enough to fatally overdose the entire population of the state of Florida. Think about that for a moment. Enough cocaine to kill everyone in Florida. That's the immense scale of the threat we face. Maritime interdiction is, without a doubt, the most effective way to stop these deadly drugs before they reach our communities, before they destroy lives and tear our families apart. Under Secretary Noem's leadership, we, the Coast Guard, are committed to dedicating the resources and the effort necessary to stop the flow of dangerous drugs into our country. Over the past several months, the Coast Guard is accelerating its counter-drug operations in the maritime transit zone. In close coordination with our international and interagency partners, we are surging additional cutters, aircraft, and tactical law enforcement teams to the eastern Pacific Ocean to hunt down, interdict, and board these suspected smugglers, all in support of Operation Pacific Viper. This critical operation is one of the Coast Guard's key efforts to interdict, seize, and disrupt the transshipment of cocaine and other bulk illicit drugs that come to us by sea from South America through the Eastern Pacific to our shores. These drugs fuel and enable cartels and transnational criminal organizations, the very same groups that are pushing fentanyl and other deadly substances to our communities. To the crew of Coast Guard Cutter Hamilton, and to all our incredible partners here today and those that are still out there doing the mission, I extend my deepest gratitude. Thank you for your extraordinary service, your unwavering commitment, and your tireless efforts to keep America safe. Semper Paratus. $1 million. With an M. Yes, ma'am. You're welcome.
Good morning. My name's Admiral Chase Sargent. I'm the Deputy Director for Giant South, which is charged with all of the detection and monitoring of drugs both on the water and in the maritime airspace. And our connection to Coast Guard is obviously we build the picture and pass the ships and the prosecution off to the Coast Guard, who then gets after the drugs, interdicts it, and brings it home. Brings it home for burning and disposal. I want to recognize, as Admiral Shammy did, the joint force and the U.S. law enforcement agencies that are here today as well, and many of the ones that aren't. And it's as the Deputy Director down at Giant South, I see firsthand every day the cooperation and the collaboration that goes on between all these groups to make this mission and our mission as successful as it is to detect and monitor, but also to support the Coast Guard, both Coast Guard District Southwest and Coast Guard District Southeast, in executing their part of the mission, which is to get the drugs. And a whole government collaboration that makes detection monitoring so effective. But we're not here to recognize those agencies as much as we are the incredible work you see here in front of you on the collection of 27 plus, and I'm going to say metric tons because we track it in metric tons, but I did the math, it's the same as the pounds. 27 plus metric tons of cocaine and 15.9 thousand pounds of marijuana. And in addition to that, as the Admiral mentioned, set a new Coast Guard record for the largest offload, single offload by a U.S. Coast Guard vessel. Led by Hamilton during the 2 months that they are out at sea, so 2 months only. They were assisted by the other ships, as he mentioned before, the Hamilton, Diligence, the Vigilant, the USS Cole, USS Minneapolis St. Paul, and the frigate Friesland from the Dutch. It was a glorious grouping of ships at a single time, and to bring together the large offload that you see here today. But I think if you want to see in general what's keeping America safe from drugs, it's this. It's the work they're doing out there every day, every night, 365, 24/7, out in the East Pac, Eastern Pacific, and the Caribbean. This is what's keeping drugs off the streets of America, and this is what's winning the war on drugs in general. An impressive group effort. On top of that record as well, I want to acknowledge the Hamilton in general, the crew of the Hamilton, for demonstrating aggressiveness and perseverance from the day they arrived on mission, and it's resulted in an interdiction of 20 of that 27 metric tons, 20 plus of it belonging to the Hamilton alone. This is not just an impressive number, it is, we believe, the largest offload of a single ship for a 2-month patrol, or any patrol as well. So Captain McWhite, you and your crew should be very proud of this effort, and we expect you back this fall. Maybe, if Admiral Shammy will let us, we definitely take you back this fall. How about a round of applause for the ship, the Hamilton, and the efforts that they did over the last 2 months. Lastly, I want to thank Hamilton for what I know has not been an easy lift in the last couple of days to be ready for this event. So I want to say bravo Zulu to the crew and the captain for putting on, being ready for this type of offload event, which goes with a lot of man hours, a lot of heavy lift to get things where they need to be and make sure the ship looks as great as it does today. So from there, I'll just say this is an example of what your Joint Force and Coast Guard are doing for you every day to make America safe, to bring in the drugs before they get to America, and produce just a phenomenal effort on this mission. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Greg Kehoe. I'm the U.S. Attorney for the Middle District of Florida, part of the Department of Justice, of course. I'm with other elements from DEA and FBI, part of the Department of Justice, and other law enforcement elements in Department of Homeland Security, including others. This element is in the Middle District of Florida, is called Panama Express, and they are investigating these matters. And Panama Express, so you know, is the most successful counter-drug operation in the nation's history for over 25 years. The U.S. Attorney's Office, FBI, DEA, Coast Guard Investigative Services, and the Department of Homeland Security have done the following: contributed to the arrest of almost 4,000 drug traffickers, including 400 leaders in these organizations. Denied over $45 billion in revenue, and seized over 1.3 million kilograms of cocaine. Each of these interdictions impacts foreign terrorist organizations, the worst of the worst, where it hurts them the most, their wallets. Foreign terrorist organizations are the focus of the Department of Justice and the President in his Operation Take Back America, and they are responsible for the drug trafficking you see before you. Many of the interdicted vessels we are talking about left Venezuela. It is a haven for Tren de Agua and Cartel de Solis, organized crime gangs in Venezuela. These are foreign terrorist organizations responsible for bringing drugs and violence to the United States, and they are a threat to our national security on a daily basis. There is no place that drug traffickers can hide from the United States Coast Guard and its partners, and we are all partners in this. If you are on the high seas and the water smuggling drugs, we, the Coast Guard, and our partners will find you and stop the federal agents and prosecutors doing what you're doing. You will then be sent to the Middle District of Florida and elsewhere for prosecution, and the evidence that they seize will be used in those cases. You will be brought to justice by the United States as appropriate, but keep in mind that this investigation, these matters will continue, these interdictions will continue, and the frontline operations on the high seas will continue, such that nobody is going to be able to hide. Thank you very much for your time.
Good morning, my name is John McQuite. I'm a proud crew member of the Cutter Hamilton. Thank you for joining us today as we honor the dedicated crew of Cutter Hamilton after an exceptional deployment. I would like to welcome Deputy Assistant Secretary for Senate Affairs, Mr. Ott, Chief Counsel for Senator Moody, Ms. Burgle, Admiral Chamey, and the Honorable Mr. Kehoe. Thank you all, distinguished guests, for joining us here today as we celebrate the accomplishments of Cutter Hamilton. The U.S. Coast Guard is unique in that it is our specialized abilities, LE authorities, and international partnerships that enable us to detect and interdict traffickers hundreds of miles out at sea to stop the flow of illegal narcotics from reaching the approaches to the United States. Additionally, Hamilton's recent mission execution is backed by Force Design 2028, which is already positively impacting operations, specifically with new streamlined practices, eliminated redundancies, and empowered decision-making at all levels appropriate for success. With full support from Secretary Noem, Mr. Sean Planke, and our Commandant, we now have an increased capability to accomplish our mission at sea and to do so efficiently and effectively. Over the past several months, Hamilton worked collectively while supporting U.S. Southern Command's Joint Interagency Task Force South for counter-narcotics focused maritime interdictions. The crew of Hamilton is the ship's heartbeat. In addition to our outstanding permanent party members, our team was comprised of special operators from TACLIT South, Tactical Law Enforcement Team South, a highly capable air crew from the Coast Guard's Helicopter Tactical Interdiction Squadron, intelligence experts, and skilled operators for our unmanned aerial systems. This team was responsible for the interdiction of 11 vessels at sea and the seizure of 47,000 pounds of cocaine, the most cocaine seized by any cutter during a single deployment in U.S. Coast Guard history. In addition to the contraband interdicted by the crew of Hamilton, today's offload represents the efforts of multiple units across our nation's services, as well as allied partners to include Coast Guard Cutter Vigilant, Coast Guard Cutter Diligence, USS Cole, USS Minneapolis-St. Paul, and HNMLS Friesen. Today we will offload a total of 61,700 pounds of cocaine and 14,400 pounds of marijuana. The joint effort of the aforementioned units make today the single largest offload in Coast Guard history. These Coast Guard members before you, to my left, represent the best this nation has to offer. Their efforts showcase a direct impact to the fight combating transnational drug organizations. This historic output, however, is a result of incredible input delivered by every single crew member day in and day out. Although what is not seen is not always commemorated. The long hours of training, maintenance, and preparation are what make today's efforts possible. The commitment and sacrifice of our service members who work tirelessly around the clock to keep our ship on target and spend significant time away from home, these are the folks that deserve to be celebrated. It's an honor to be a part of the team today and every day. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you. So we have time for one question and one follow-up question from the media. If you could please state your name, your outlet, and who your question is for. Sir?
Yeah, Carlos Cabrera from NBC News. The Attorney General, you mentioned that some of these investigations were being automated. Can you give us more specifics if they were connected with the cartel de los soles and how many of these interdictions actually took place and how much drug was seized?
Well, many of these vessels were emanated from Venezuela. As you know, that is now a hub for Trinidad de Agua for their narcotics trafficking. They hire crews there and they begin to move those narcotics into various other locales, be it Mexico or Honduras or other places, then they be transshipped into the United States. That is a daily event that we, through the United States Coast Guard and our partners, are attempting to interdict. And it was those vessels, many of whom we know were emanated in Venezuela, that were interdicted, and the cocaine and marijuana were seized by the Hamilton and the other vessels that were mentioned by my colleagues.
Thank you. Next question. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry?
Do you have any numbers on, or any information on drugs that were recovered from Colombia?
In the government of Colombia?
From Colombia.
The cocaine, the elements that are in Venezuela and Colombia work in tandem. The cartels that are in Colombia work closely with TDA and other elements in Venezuela because it's moving narcotics. The cocaine emanates from Colombia for the most part, but the transshipment and the movement is done in large part by Venezuelan mariners and Venezuelan ships. So yes, there is a connection with Colombia.
All right, sir. Please state your name, your outlet, and who your question's for.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I know most of these interdictions were made in the Eastern Pacific. How does this cutter and the drugs get from the Eastern Pacific here to dispose of Florida, and why here in Florida?
Yes, sir. So our Coast Guard assets, as well as our DoD assets, we patrol both the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific. We simply monitor or roll back through the Panama Canal. So we'll often transit that route to get from the east back to the Caribbean and Caribbean to the east back. So
So how many, like, can you give us a rough idea? How many interceptions were made in the East Pacific? How many were made in the Caribbean off the coast of Venezuela? What's kind of the breakdown through?
yeah, just for our 2-month patrol, we had about 2/3 of those interdictions, and then the rest came from the Caribbean, sir, on this specific offload.
I think you're stopping at Fort Lauderdale. Why Fort Lauderdale in the day?
Yes, sir. So our ship is stationed in Charleston, South Carolina. So this is simply on the way home, as well as our partners here in Florida, Middle District, Florida. Drugs landed here. DEA lab to our west is where these are offloaded. Yes, sir.